All right, we're live. Good morning, everyone. This is warm-up day 21. So we're going to start seated and then make our way onto the floor. But if at any time you want to just come and lay down on the floor, then you certainly can. So we're going to start seated today. And, I've been thinking about just being in our spaces, being in homes or apartments, apartments, flats, wherever we are, and how well I'm feeling I'm getting to know the space even more, being in it so much. So let's begin today seated comfortably, however that is for you, letting our eyes be open, and taking a moment to take in the space that you're in. To see out into the room. And not just in a general way, which we could do, sort of like just sweep through and see the room. But to really see the details of the room that you're in. To see the colors, see the textures. Maybe you see the laundry that still has to be folded. And maybe even looking on these things with a sense of gratitude. Although we are somewhat confined maybe, or relegated to be in isolation in these spaces more than we often are. Perhaps as we look out and see the things that we can see, that we do so and have a space for gratitude in ourselves, in our hearts. To have the space to be in. And you can turn your body to see what's behind you. And then moving your sense of consciousness further out. So if you are looking through a window, you can actually see what it is out there and see the space that's outside, just outside of this room. So maybe that's a backyard, maybe that's another room. And be aware of all of that space. And the space that you can't actually see, you can picture in your mind's eye. So this is where your eyes might close, or your eyes go half closed. And your attention now goes to the spaces that are just outside the space that you're in right now. And if you think in front of you, what's in front of you? Picturing what's above you, perhaps that's another apartment, perhaps it's the roof of your building. Perhaps there's a skylight and you can actually look up and see the space above you. Picturing the space that's directly behind you, next to the space you're in, and to the sides. And really getting a sense that, yes, there's space that you're in, and you may be working in a space that's rather limited. You may be warming yourself up. You may only have a small space of your bedroom or maybe a shared common room. But there is even more space around you. We can take that in with our consciousness. And yes, maybe we can even do that with a sense of gratitude. I'm grateful that there's space in the backyard that I can take in while I'm sitting on my couch for 6 hours teaching, And as you take in these spaces, you might also not only take in the visual sense of that space, but also the sounds in that space. The birds chirping. Maybe there's traffic. Maybe there are neighbors that are hustling and bustling to get ready. And also think of the space beneath you. So that could be a lower apartment. That could be the foundation of your building or a crawl space. And then bring your consciousness to the next level. So that's what's beyond. So the space that continues above you into the sky, the space that continues to your right and your left, which could be other buildings, could be open field, the space that continues behind and in front of you, and the space that continues beneath you. And that's quite a bit to take in, so you might do one at a time. Or maybe you can have a sense of expansion in that space in all directions. Picturing all of this space that continues up and out of you in all directions. So yes, while we may be in a time of social isolation, we might go back to the remembering that there is always more space. There's always more space that we will be able to move into in different ways. Even if we are working in our bedroom, which is the size of our bed. And now let's bring that sense of space back inward, back into that outer ring of space right outside of the room we're in. Back into the room that we're in. And then bring it into you. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. And now start to picture the space inside of you. Your inner space. We were picturing outer space and maybe even letting yourself go into outer space. But now let's come into inner space. Picturing the spaces inside of your body, inside of your head. Picturing all of those cavities of your sinuses, of your eyes and your ears, your nasal passage, the space where your brain sits, the space inside your mouth. And if you think of softening and relaxing, you might even feel and get a sense that there's even more space there. The space inside your jaw hinge, the space inside your throat, the spaces inside of your torso, the space inside your shoulder joints and your arms and your hands, the space inside of your pelvis and your belly, the space inside your legs, your knees, your lower legs, your ankles, your feet. But there is space in there. Maybe there's space for breakfast. Maybe there's no space for breakfast. Maybe you've had it already. And now let's move with the sense of our own inner space onto the floor now and onto our backs. And as you do that, keeping a sense of that space and perhaps, yes, a sense of gratitude for that space and that awareness, we'll make our way down onto the floor and onto our backs, into that outer space with a sense of our inner space. And letting your legs extend out from the spaces in your hip sockets, letting your arms be comfortably down by your sides or on your belly or wherever feels most comfortable for you. And now with the sense of the spaces in your body being in the outer spaces in your room, bring some attention now onto your breath. Can you make space for your breath? And seeing if you can let your lips find space between each other, and your jaw, your upper and lower jaw, find some space between each other so that the breath can come in through the spaces in your mouth, drop in to the space in your belly. Maybe you can even picture now that the breath, as it comes in, is actually going down into the spaces into your feet. And that breath is expanding the spaces down in your feet. As the breath comes in, and the breath falls out of you again. And then the breath goes down to the spaces in your legs, into your knees. And it's bringing even more space into your lower body. And then the breath very directly goes down to your pelvis, and it opens up your pelvis even more. It gives you a sense of more inner space. And then the breath opens up the belly and the back, the ribs, all of the spaces in your torso. On the incoming breath, and on the outgoing breath, that space relaxes. And then the breath goes down through your arms, through your hands and fingertips, and it brings more space, more consciousness, more room in those limbs. And then letting the breath go. And then the breath opens up space in your throat, in your head, in your mouth, maybe even your ears. And then bringing your awareness back to your middle with that space in your belly for the breath. Maybe there's enough space for that breath to turn to vibration. Ha. Ha. And can you have a sense of those vibrations, reverberating through all of the spaces in your body? Ha ha. 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 Picturing the sound emanating from your belly through all of those open spaces in you. Ha ha. Ha ha. Ha ha. ha, ha, ha. And now feeding in a deep down sigh of relief on vibration, and picturing those vibrations like a river traveling through the entire open spaces of your body. And now float your right knee up, dragging your right foot till it's flat on the floor, and your right knee's bent. And then do the same with the left. Left knee bends, dragging the left foot till it's flat on the floor. And now picture the space underneath your knees. And now think down into your pelvis. And begin a gentle rock of your pelvis. So your pelvis, almost like a bowl, rocks down towards your feet, and then up towards your head. Towards your feet, towards your head. Feet and head. Feet and head. And then you start to bring this a little bit more loosely into a rock. Rocking the great bowl of your pelvis. And maybe even imagining that the vibrations now are like water in this. Maybe it's a sacred bowl, maybe it's a ceremonial bowl. And it's going to get rocked, sort of shaken through that bowl. So maybe you can imagine as you're rocking on your pelvis that the waters of this bowl are getting splish-splashed through all of that open space of your body. And maybe you could even imagine that in the stained glass bowl of your pelvis, that it's like a stained glass window. So there are beautiful colors on this stained glass bowl. And as you sigh through this vibration, that the vibrations are picking up on those colors, and the splish splash of colors are like traveling through the whole house of your body, or maybe it's sort of church-like, if that works for you with all those stained glass windows. Or maybe it's just your body you're picturing, but it's that open space. And you can start to let your head rock from ear to ear if you want a loosening in your neck as well. Gently let that come to stillness, both in your pelvis and in your neck. Feel that rush of energy through your body. Ha-ma. Ha-ma-ma-ma. Maybe you can have a sense of gratitude that your husband is in the other room, off of work today, doing it with you, which I do. Float your right knee up over your belly. Float your left knee up over your belly. Just give your knees a hug into you. You might feel that your lower back really needs that. You can even lift your head up off the ground as if you're trying to kiss your knees. Give it a little morning kiss. Feel that stretch in the back of your neck. And then lay your head down and begin to stir your knees as if you're stirring the waters in that pelvic bowl. And you can do it in opposite directions. You can change direction every so often. And the vibrational waters from that bowl go immediately to your lips. Now we're going to flutter through a triad. So we'll flutter through and shake or stir your knees around, stir your legs around, as if to stir up those vibrational waters, that colorful vibrational water in your pelvis. And now let your legs extend, let your legs and arms stretch out. And maybe you can circle your wrists and your ankles and circle the vibrations through those joints. Floating your knees up over your belly, and let your knees rock gently from side to side. Now let yourself rock over to one side, so you're in a semi-fetal on one side of your body. Let there be a little space between your lips and the ground. Ha ha. And check in with that touch of sound. Ha ha ha. See how that feels? Ha ha ha. You still have a sense of the vibrations reverberating through the spaces in your body. Ha 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 ha. And from there, yawn again, opening up the space in your mouth and coming in to a banana stretch on your side, stretching your legs behind you, your arms over your head, and relax back into the semi-fetal. And one more time, yawning in, your feet move away from you, your arms come over your head, you stay on your side body, and you yawn in, opening the space in your soft palate, all the way down to your belly, and relax back to the semi-fetal. And come onto your hands and knees. Let yourself relax back into a folded leaf. And let there be some space between your legs so that the belly can relax between your thighs. Picture the vibrations beginning in your tailbone, traveling through the spaces in your spine, into the spaces of your face, to your lips, and then down to the space beneath your lips, down to the floor. Gently rock yourself up onto all fours. Coming onto your hands and knees now on all fours. Let your hands be directly under your shoulder sockets and your knees directly under your hip sockets. And begin to open up a little bit more space in your spine and your torso by gently moving your spine pleasurably. You can arch and round. You can roll through the barrel of your ribs. But we're asking for there to be more space, even more inner space, through the spine, through the torso. And then come to a rounded spine with your tailbone dropped and your head dropped, picturing the vibrations beginning in your tailbone in that pelvic space. Ha-hum. The hum comes to your arching spine. You arch, arch, arch. At the top of that thought, at the end of that thought, your top skull will lift off your bottom jaw, and the vibrations will fly through the spaces in your mouth into the outer spaces in your room. And then you round your spine, your tailbone drops, so it's going from the inner spaces of you to the outer spaces. Rounding your spine, the breath drops in. Rounding your spine, maybe with this, and rounding back to a folded leaf for a moment. Give yourself a little rest. Now, we'll come and do that again, and maybe you can even imagine this time that your spine is like a beautiful constellation in outer space, in the night sky. And you're following those vibrations through each one of the stars of the constellation of your spine. And as the vibrations release out of you, it follows that path over the roof of your mouth as if that's maybe the Milky Way galaxy. And then it releases out into the outer parts of the universe. And then just to maybe wave goodbye to those vibrations as those constellations are moving out, 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 you'll stretch and relax your tongue twice. So coming back to all fours, it will be something like this. Two tongue stretches at the end. Here we go. Round your constellation spine. Round your spine, the breath drops in. Round your spine. And then round yourself back to the folded leaf again. And now loosen the middle of your tongue. And gently sit back up on your heels. Now, if this is uncomfortable, you can grab a block or a pillow, which I'm going to do now, to put under your bum. Or you can also sit cross-legged if that feels better in your body. Let's do one here. It's coming up and sitting up here with this sense of space. Now, bring your fingers into your jaw hinge, and let's encourage there to be even more space in your hinge, in the jaw hinge. Massaging those muscles. Still being aware of the space in your mouth, the space in your belly for breath. And let that go. Take your hands up to your jaw, feet in the sigh, up and over that galaxy, that Milky Way of the roof of your mouth. Picturing that beautiful space and then shaking your jaw loose. And again. And maybe you let your eyes open if they're not already, and let the vibrations from the inner space of you meet the outer space. Hello, Kiki. Meow. And from there, leaving your bottom jaw behind, lengthening your neck up and back. And let the space of your throat open even more. And picture down into your chest. And you can let one hand come onto the front of your chest, the other hand slip up between your shoulder blades. And yes, we're picturing the space in the chest. Maybe it's as spacious as a gas giant. Maybe it's as big as Jupiter. And maybe you do feel like a little bit of a gas giant this morning, depending on whatever dinner you might have had last night. And you sigh up through that giant space. Ah. And now in actual space, right, there's no sound, there's the vacuum, but you can feel the sound, you can feel the vibrations through the bones of your ribs, you can hear the sound. And then thump it through that gas giant. And then let yourself come up on your neck. Bring your sense now into the spaces in your mouth. And maybe it's not a gas giant, maybe it's a smaller planet in your mouth, maybe it's Mercury, maybe it's Venus or Earth. But you've got that round space in your mouth, and you let the vibrations now come into that place. And you can let yourself stay open here on the lips and let your hands actually come to the sides of your mouth and feel those vibrations coming through. Maybe it's that sense of the Milky Way, that whole galaxy in your mouth and the roof of your mouth. Being aware of all of that resonance. And then bring your hands in front of your mouth, clasp your fingers in front of your mouth, and let this extend that Milky Way, extend that galaxy of vibration in front of you. And then spread those vibrations out through the universe. And let that go. And let your neck lengthen forward. And now bring your sense of vibrations now into the teeth. And maybe it's like a shooting star, right? Very, very directed, very bright. And the vibrations go from the spaces in your middle right to your teeth. He. And you feel that bright pinginess of that little asteroid, that little meteorite. He. It's a shooting star. He. Yeah, and that shooting star is dropping to Earth. He. Right, it's a little asteroid shower. He. Right, it's the Cleonides. That's not a word. It is now. He. 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 And then come back up and through that whole night sky. And then lengthen up and back and drop back down to the infinite space of the universe. Or maybe it's the gas giant and you can feel that your ribs are like the rings of Saturn. And then come up on your neck and blend all of those places, those spaces and places. Hey. Hey, hey, hey. And then shake it through the rings of your Saturn ribs. Hey. And then as if I don't know, a shooting star or something, and a piece of space rock could come shoot out one of your arms, through the bones of your arms. Hey! And then through the other arm. Hey! And Kiki's really interested in what's going on. I'm going to send one to her. Hey! Good, and come up onto all fours again. Your knees might be feeling a little need to shake some sound out through a leg. An asteroid goes through your leg. Hey! And through your other leg. Hey! And then gently come and sit back on your heels again. And take a moment now to feel that space in you. Be aware of your vibrations. Ha-ha-ma. And say, I feel, and whatever it is that you feel right now, I feel tingly. And let your eyes open with a sense of your space. Let your eyes open to the space around you again. Ha-ha. And speaking back to the space. Ha-ha-ha. Maybe with that sense of gratitude for the space in you, the spaces outside of you, and the space that you've made for this warm-up today for yourself. Ha ha ha. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I invite you to continue your your warm-up and taking this perhaps into some triads, into galaxies of sound through your body now throughout the rest of the day. I hope you enjoyed this warm-up and this attention and this mindfulness to space. I was thinking a lot about that yesterday. And hopefully if you're working in a small space or in a space that feels rather cramped, that you can remember that there is always more space and that we can even find that space inside of us. So I offer that to you, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow.